Let's turn now to the Middle East, where we're learning of a fifth group of Israeli hostages that have just been released. The Israeli military has confirmed that Hamas handed over 12 hostages over to the International Red Cross. That handover happening despite claims by Israel and Hamas that each other had violated the terms of this very fragile truce that is now into the fifth day. In an online post, the Israeli military said a number of its troops on patrol in northern Gaza were, quote, lightly injured when militants allegedly detonated 3 explosive devices and also opened fire on them. Now, here are some pictures of some of those Israeli troops in the area today. Hamas responded to the IDF claims by accusing Israel of, quote, a blatant breach of the truce without specifying any details. Now, despite what happened, there are now talks of further extending that ceasefire.
The current hostage release pause can be extended for another 5 days on the basis of the 3-for-1 swap between Israeli hostages and Palestinian violent criminals. As I said, we've also allowed for another 50 prospective Palestinian prisoners to be released if Hamas wants to continue releasing hostages, as we want to see.
Let's go now to Briar Stewart. She, of course, part of our team covering the Israel-Hamas war in Tel Aviv. Briar, what more can you tell us about the hostage handover?
Well, it's continuing to be underway now, but according to Israel's government, 12 hostages were released, 10 Israelis and additional 2 Thai nationals. Now, in terms of the Israelis, they were all women. There was only one person on that list under the age of 18, and that was a 17-year-old who was freed alongside her mother. There are still children in Gaza as hostages. Some reports that are more than half a dozen. And what we're seeing is reports about how some of the groups of hostages have been transferred by Hamas to other militant groups. And that is the concern for one family, the Bibas family. There was an entire family that was taken hostage, the father Yarden, the mom Shiri, and their 2 children, just 10-month-old Kafir and 4-year-old Ariel. And a little while ago in Tel Aviv, they had a rally because they are extremely frustrated that it has been more than 50 days that they have been in Gaza as hostages. And now we are at the 5 days into this truce that may only last for another day. And I spoke to the cousin of Yarden, and he really wanted the government and really the international community to do all it can to try to get the family and the children released.
It depends when do you ask me, which part of the day. Sometimes I say, okay, they are going to be there. And sometimes I say, it's been so long. The chance, every day that passes, the chances of survival decrease. It's decreasing. The government, we call the government of Israel, and all of the partners in the government to do what they can before it's too late.
It really is just a heartbreaking situation for that family. And of course, as these hostages come out and are taken to the hospital and reunited with their relatives this evening, you have Palestinians who've been imprisoned in Israeli jails who are going through the process of being released as well. There will be 30 of them released tonight. And Palestinian groups say that list includes 15 women and 15 teenage boys.
And Briar, with the extended pause, more aid would be able to get into Gaza for the civilians who are just desperately needing it. What's the latest on the humanitarian situation?
That's right. More aid is going into Gaza. U.S. officials say about 240 trucks a day, but aid agencies say it's nowhere near enough. And I think that's pretty clear when you see some of the images coming out of Gaza itself. The U.S. says you need about 400 trucks a day just to kind of meet the basic needs of the population. And there is a backlog, a bottleneck at the border crossing between Egypt and Gaza, the Rafah crossing. It's the only one that's open right now, which is why the UN is calling on Israel to reopen its southern crossing into Gaza, which has been closed since the October 7th attacks. Now, I mentioned some of the images we're seeing out of Gaza. I mean, people with large plastic jugs lining up at one of a few stations to try to get clean water. You had the World Health Organization talk today about how the risk of disease could end up being a bigger killer than all of the bombs. And more than 15,000 people have already been killed in this war, according to local officials, and 40% of them are children. And so it really is a dire situation, and made worse by the fact that while there are negotiations still going on, and in fact you have the director of Mossad in Doha along with the director of the CIA and Israeli officials talking about perhaps extending the truce further, I don't really think there's a lot of traction for any kind of lasting peace. I mean, Israel continues to say that its ultimate goal is to eliminate Hamas. And so while there may be a few more days where there's a break in fighting and more aid can come in, it is a very difficult situation. And once Israel's military relaunches its operation, the humanitarian situation will most certainly get worse.
Briar Stewart in Jerusalem, thank you kindly.